Consider a kindergarten classroom as being like an emergency room. I am the ER doctor and I have to triage. How fair is that to the student that is ready to read or that needs help, but I can't give it to them because I have to deal with this kid who's taking off and I've got to call the office to get someone to go chase him because I can't leave.
Amen. Amen, my friend. You just spoke the truth of millions of educators. And this last week you got on the phone with me and you're like, you won't believe it, Ilana. I am going to be next year's president of the teachers union in my district.
I was approached to take on that role, and I thought, you're crazy. For 23 years, I have not ever really been a part of the union. They came to me and said, but because of your advocacy for your students and speaking up at board meetings, and, we think you'd be really great at this.
You literally got chosen. Your community of educators saw you as the one person in your district to be the president. Kristy, this is a long time coming. I am just so excited to be here with you today. I remember viscerally the experience of meeting you, and I've led hundreds of Breathe for Change trainings at this point, but it was a particularly special training that you were a part of, that cohort in 2018, where my mom was a part of the cohort and my mother-in-law. And I remember just seeing you on that first day. You were like burnt out. You're coming into this program like, what's next for me in education? And then after graduating, just you kept showing up over and over and over again. And I feel like it's been such a blessing for me to have developed such a close relationship with you over the years. You've been a mentor in Breathe for Change. You've been my student. I was your faculty advisor in the master's, and I saw your incredible teaching and research surface. And then I know this last week you got on the phone with me and you're like, you won't believe it, Ilana. I am going to be next year's president of the teachers union in my district. And the Kristy that I knew in 2018 would have been scared out of her mind by that opportunity. And that just wouldn't have been possible for you based on how you thought about yourself. And so I just can't wait to dive into this conversation and just to hear more about your journey today and to share your inspiring story with all of our educators.
Well, I'm excited to be here. And no, I'm definitely not the same educator or person that I was back in 2018.
Yeah. And actually, I want to go even back further than 2018 because I know you didn't start your career as an educator, right? That was your second job.
It's my second career. Yeah,
So
my
tell me,
chosen career.
yeah, your chosen career. So
Yeah.
talk to me more about like what that transition was like. Why did you decide like, hey, I'm going to completely start from scratch and become a teacher?
I was in the interior design field, but in the commercial
I
side
want
of
you to
it.
come design my whole house.
No, thank you. I never was interested in doing residential. It
Uh-huh.
was too personal and too emotional
Oh,
for me. And
interesting.
honestly, I couldn't deal with people that were so sensitive about their home. So I always wanted to do
But then you
commercial.
became a kindergarten teacher.
But then becoming, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. But I did that for quite a few years. And then what changed is I was on a jury on a murder trial. And it was a 4-month trial, and my son was in kindergarten.
This is so
And
interesting.
yeah, I think I put this in my master's
Ah,
capstone.
yep.
But what happened was my former kindergarten teacher was going to come and sub in his class, and I found that out. And so I had my mom pull out the picture of her and I on the
Wait,
playground.
your kindergarten
My
teacher
kindergarten teacher,
was
Mrs.
going to
Wolf.
sub for your kids' class.
Yes. And so I
Oh.
found that out, and I had my mom pull the picture of her and I in 1973. I'm aging myself now, on the playground in our red, white, and blue, coordinating outfits. And I put it in a picture frame, and I wrote her a card, and I said how inspirational she was to me. And I asked the judge for permission to take a longer lunch that day so that I could go and see her. And so I did, and she remembered me. She remembered my name. She remembered my friends' names, and it was so
Mm.
impactful. I'm like, and I'd always wanted to be a kindergarten teacher, but my path, went a different way. And I was making good money as an interior designer, working for, commercial companies. And
You're definitely not
it,
making good money as a kindergarten teacher compared
no,
to that.
no. But, and it's, it was, so many years ago, but it was so impactful. And I knew sitting on the rest of that jury that I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher and that I was
Mhm.
going to quit my job. No, I was actually going to go to school to be a teacher and keep my high paying job and then
Smart.
quit. But what I didn't know is that the day I got back from jury duty, my whole department had been laid off.
The
So,
universe was looking out for you.
yes,
Yeah.
so I was on unemployment for 9 months, but during that time, I did the research, I took the CBEST, I, became a sub, and then I got into a credential program and haven't looked back.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I just finished my 24th year of teaching.
What a fun transition.
It was
That was
stressful.
one chapter. Yeah, I'm sure it
Yeah.
was stressful. Well, talk to me more about your experience in your teacher education program. Like, did you feel it actually equipped you to be the teacher you wanted to be? What was
Hell no.
supportive? Hell no.
No.
Absolutely
Looking back,
not.
now I can say, no, in no way did it prepare me to be a teacher in the way that we need to be teachers.
Mhm.
It prepared me to how to teach reading, how to
Mhm.
teach math, how
Mhm.
to do, you know, how to teach social studies. It taught me those things. It
Mhm.
didn't teach me anything about classroom management, didn't teach me anything about social emotional learning, which I didn't even know was a thing
Yep.
until Breathe for Change. So no, it didn't adequately prepare me for what teaching really was. And so the first 5 years were
A hot
horrifically
mess.
hard. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had the same exact experience as a new teacher. I felt like ending my teacher preparation, I was like, "Okay, I'm ready to go into the classroom." I thought I was ready, and then
Yeah.
day 1, week 1, month 1 hit, and I go, "I have no idea how to address the behaviors that are showing up in my classroom, how to meet the needs of my students who are experiencing trauma or who have no English at
Hmm.
all coming into my classroom." And it was so stressful. And so I'm curious when you had that, like, aha moment of, like, "Wow, I wasn't effectively prepared." Was it right away, or
God,
did it c
probably year one. I mean, I was lucky enough to work at a wonderful school that I'm still at now with
Wow.
amazingly, experienced teachers
Uh-huh.
who helped support me and guide me,
Mhm.
but it was still hard. But back then, class sizes were 20, and now they are 28, so it's a very different,
It's a different ball game.
very
Mhm.
different ballgame. So back then, you had more support. You had the freedom to, have free choice. I mean, I've
Mhm.
always taught kindergarten, but have free choice, have free play, have that social emotional time that kids so need. The academics were important, but it wasn't, the rigorous, you've got to do this and test scores. And even in kindergarten, it's so different now than
It
it
got
was when I
pushed
first.
down over
Mhm.
the years.
Yeah. Well, and now kindergarten is like first grade for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you had a really challenging first several
Hmm.
years.
Hmm.
And then what brought you to Breathe for Change?
I think it was 16 years in or so, and,
Wow.
I was a group fitness instructor, and I was teaching, like, a yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi kind of fusion class, and
Mhm.
I remember seeing on Facebook, I didn't know that I needed Breathe for Change until you told me I needed it, because
Yeah.
I saw it come across on Facebook, and it was like, "Wow," I said, "That's what I need." It was infusing, teacher well-being
Mhm.
with social emotional learning,
Mhm.
which was becoming a buzzword back then. And so I didn't know that I needed it, but as soon as I saw it, I signed up. I knew I needed to do it.
Mhm.
And that was when we were so lucky to have it in person in San Francisco
Mhm.
and you to be, I mean, I didn't know that how lucky I was until that day, that first day that, you, the founder and CEO, was leading my training.
Yeah.
So, and
It
you had a
was
great team. You had a great team
oh,
of,
it was the best
of
team.
trainers then.
And there are a lot of them are still, leading and supporting in
I
this
loved
movement.
Chris's podcast because
Oh,
he was the
yeah.
spiritual gangster. That
Yeah.
was, oh, I loved him.
He was your guy,
Hmm.
so so special. And so what was the experience like for you in the
In
program?
the program. It was intense. It was in person. It was 3 weekends out of the month. It was, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, so it was
Mhm.
big, chunk out of my family time.
Mhm.
My kids were younger. I mean, they're adults now, but they were younger at the time, and it was it was hard, but it was so nourishing
Yeah.
that even though I was exhausted by 8 p.m. on Sunday night, I took everything that I learned with SEL and strategies and implemented it on Monday in my classroom. And that was what was really powerful about, the initial program was that I could take what I was learning and
Mhm.
immediately see an impact in the classroom.
Mhm. And, when COVID hit, that's when we were forced to go online, and now
And I was
educators everywhere have access to our programs, which is the best, and what I love about the model that you're talking about and how we do Breathe for Change even today online is that it's like it's not meant to be theoretical. It's meant for you to
be
be
practical.
practical,
Yes.
to build new skills, to have new strategies, a
It's
toolkit for
relevant.
you can literally implement the things tomorrow. So, how did your teaching change? What give us a day in the life of Christy's kindergarten classroom?
I mean, there's so many things that just come to mind. Just being able to have the kids begin to understand what their feelings are,
Mm.
to give them that emotional vocabulary of everything's not just happy and sad. There are lots of other emotions,
Mhm.
and teaching them that vocabulary and seeing the process from, you know, um, I feel happy or I feel sad to I feel disappointed or I feel nervous. Just that emotional vocabulary has been so wonderful to see 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds begin to articulate.
Mhm.
Um, but, I mean, I immediately saw changes back in 2018 when I would bring it into my classroom, and I still do, the breathing ball, I still do, those two-word check-ins, I still do those things every day since I started in 2018, and
Mhm.
it's evolved. I mean, there are lots of other different things, but I always start my day out with our morning circle, and, I have a basket on the floor with different color emoji faces,
I love it.
and then, and I teach them in the beginning of the year what each of those might mean. I don't say, "Well, this is the green card that looks happy, so it has to be happy." No, that could be anything. What is
Mhm.
it for you?
Mhm.
Is it excited? Is it, whatever it is for them, like, they get to decide what it is. And we sit around in a circle, and I teach them, the structure of, the sentence from, "I feel blank because." And
Mhm.
so they know that they're responding in a complete sentence, or if they don't feel like speaking that day, they're just showing me the card. I say, "Oh,
Mhm.
you have a yellow card. Does that mean that you're tired? Does that mean that you're happy and sad? Like, what does that mean for you?" And then
Mhm.
just it gives them a chance to really feel safe.
Mhm.
That's really what that circle is about. It's about feeling safe and secure because, and I've always said this, and you always said this, if they feel safe and secure and loved in the classroom, they can learn.
That's when learning becomes
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
I remember in my pre-K classroom when I did the morning circle and I would do the two-word check-in, and each kid, after I guided them through this internal practice of checking in with themselves and finding their 2 words to describe how they're feeling, I'd have them go around and each say their 2 words, and as a teacher, I felt like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so much better equipped to respond to what's happening in the room right now."
Mhm.
If my students are sad or scared or mad versus happy, excited, I'm gonna teach in a different way. We're gonna
Exactly.
stop and actually hold space for whatever is going on. We're going to come together as a community and do whatever is needed in that moment to support the kids so that they can show up fully for the learning, or the learning is not happening.
Exactly. We're given at our school, I think, 5 or 10 minutes for a morning check-in. Sometimes mine takes 15, sometimes it takes 30, and
Mhm.
it's okay.
It buys back
Yes,
time.
yes, and that's what
Educators
teachers don't understand,
yes.
that you don't have to follow. And I know I can say this because I'm a seasoned teacher, and new teachers might be like, "I only have this much time," and they have to do they have to stick to their schedule
Yes.
that was given to them, and I'm like, "No, you don't,
Well, and this
because
is a
guess
different
what?"
Christy than 2018,
Oh,
because in
yeah.
the beginning, you're like, "Oh my god, Ilana, how in the world am I supposed to do this in my classroom? There's no chance I have to teach reading, math,
Eh,
science." And you've discovered, just like tens of thousands of educators who've taken our program, that when you create the space to connect with your students, to have them settle in, to know where they're coming from,
mhm.
what they're bringing into the learning, then learning becomes not just possible, but so much more efficient
Mhm.
because they're ready, they're
Right.
focused, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued. And I will never forget in my first cohort of Breathe for Change, I had this one educator named Mac, and he was this middle school teacher. And he came in, he's like, there's no chance that my middle schoolers are gonna
Mm.
be able to do this mindful moment in the beginning of the school year. And he ended up just being really consistent despite all the resistance.
Mhm.
It's very different to do middle school than it is
Oh, yeah.
pre-K or kindergarten. And I remember a few months into the school year, he was like, "Ilana, you won't believe it. We're now at 11 minutes of the mindful moment." And he only had 50 minutes to teach math. And he said, "And my classroom on average is performing 11% higher on every math test."
Wow.
So this stuff buys back
It does.
time.
It does.
Yeah, and also, our kids feel so much more connected. I mean, tell us more about how your students feel in the classroom.
I mean, when they come in and I just look around the circle and I can look at the cards. Like,
Mhm,
sometimes I'll pull the cards away, or we'll do, little different weather cards to do, like, the weather check-in,
mhm.
and use that instead of the traditional cards. But I could just look around the room and I could say, "God, there's like 10 pink cards," which was the sad face, or, like, there are
Mm.
lots of green cards. Like, I could just look around and see, and then I know that when mostly what they'll say is that because they miss their mom, they miss their dad, or sometimes they'll tell me something that their brother did something to them or whatever. But I have a calm down spot in the classroom, and they know that after they share, they can go there, turn the timer on, and then they just go back and forth. When the next one is ready, they go over, and so they just
Aw.
know how to take care of themselves because I set that space up for them. So, and then we get up and then we put on some songs and we do our morning song and we dance and sing, and then we get to work. And so I have basically a 45 minutes in every morning where, um, and my principal watches this, where, we're doing, SEL work. But
Mhm,
then, yeah, you're right. It buys back time later because they're ready.
mhm,
And I'm better equipped to look at how my kids are coming into the classroom
mhm.
so that I can adjust to what they need.
Talk more about you, like, how are you embodying these practices that you're teaching in your own life? Like, how did your internal world shift as a result of this experience?
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I'm probably much better in the classroom than I am in my personal life
Mhm.
with
Well,
balancing this.
it's a
I
constant work
Is
in
it okay?
progress. All I mean, this is life's work,
I
right?
mean,
How we show up
8
is
years of this work, it's
yeah.
like I still, and I have, like, my son will say, "Remember what you'd learn in Breathe for Change, like, do it for yourself."
Uh-huh.
So he's constantly, like, holding that mirror up
I
to
love
me
he's your
too.
accountability buddy.
Yeah, kind of.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, my daughter does the same thing too, but they will both say, "Breathe, like, remember what you were taught." Like, it
Mhm.
is so easy to forget when it comes to self,
Mhm.
but we know that that's what needs to come first.
Yeah.
Like, we have to and that's what you teach in all of your work is self first,
So how do you
because
bring it back?
I just have to keep remembering,
Yeah.
everything that I learned, and literally it's just like stopping and taking a few breaths.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it's there's no magic script that I use or, anything. It's just sometimes it's really hard
Yeah.
to go back and remember what I need to do to take care of myself first. But
That's
um
why one of the first strategies that we teach at Breathe for Change is 3 collective breaths.
mhm,
It's like sometimes, right, in that moment of heightened stress where your body is just dysregulated,
mhm,
your nervous system is like in a fight or flight state, or maybe you're just exhausted and overwhelmed because we hold so much as educators. Sometimes, like literally in that moment of awareness, oh, I'm in it again. Taking those 3
yeah.
breaths, it
It's true,
it
and then
makes
that
such a
allows me
big
to then make
difference.
a list, and prioritize, and it clears my mind so that I can then focus on what's the priority, and then I
Mhm.
can kind of break it down like that. But yeah, the breath is probably the one thing that I do. I'd like to say that it's, you know, 10 minutes of meditation or it's like doing a yoga practice, but honestly, it's just the breathing.
Mhm. And I remember a couple years back, you came up to me and you're like, "I can do this stuff all day with kids, but talking to adults or sharing these things with adults is so freaky."
Yeah.
And so many teachers in our programs feel the same way. It's so interesting. Like us as educators, we feel confident within the walls of our classroom, whether it's pre-K all the way through higher education, doesn't
Mhm.
matter, right? Middle school kids, high school kids, early childhood, doesn't matter. It's like those are our people. We
Right.
can talk to them. But going outside of that, you know, place of comfort, so to speak, is a total stretch.
Yeah.
And I know that you started over the years to share this with some of your colleagues and your family. So can you talk a little bit more about how you have taken this work outside of the classroom?
Back in the beginning, when I first graduated from Breathe for Change, the initial module, I was really excited about, bringing this to teachers and bringing this out into, yoga in the park with the soccer moms and doing something with the staff. And I had this dream of, I want one day a week where I'm like the specials teacher, where I would do mindful movement and yoga and meditation, whatever, with the kids, where teachers would sign up and bring their kids to me for 30 minutes, and we would do a whole class ride, class, um, section where, like the library or like art class,
You're bringing me back to our first, advising meeting in your master's program where you're like, "I have these huge ideas for my research," and I was like,
bring
"Hone.
it down.
Let's start small,"
Mhm.
because it's these baby steps, these small actions that
Yeah,
can lead to long-term
right. And I do that.
results.
I tend to try to think
Oh, me too. We're
big picture
dreamers.
and get overwhelmed with
Uh-huh.
that, and yeah, kind of bringing it back down to reality.
So did you bring those ideas to life in the beginning?
Um, a few things, like I did a once a week yoga class for teachers for a few months. I did some yoga in the park with my daughter's soccer team moms. I did teach yoga to middle schoolers one
Mm.
semester, and that was completely different than any other age group I'd ever worked with. I did some things for the high schoolers for my daughter's extracurricular group, and it was good. It was good. I mean, people would hear me talk about Breathe for Change, and they would hear me. I had a couple other teachers that signed up and did the program, and then, I brought the idea to my principal at the time about, having one day a week where I do this, and I go, "Oh, we'll find the money, then
Mhm.
and you could do whatever." And he wasn't really, uh, open
Mhm.
to what I was trying to bring in.
Didn't stop
Uh,
you.
no, it didn't, but, it just
Mhm.
I just kept it in my mind. I just
Yeah.
kept thinking that this is what I wanna do someday.
Mhm.
And then COVID hit, and at the time I was because I could not be away from Breathe for Change, I became a
A
graduate
mentor.
fellow is what you called it back then.
Now mentor,
Now
yeah.
mentor and did that, but then going from the in-person and then having to switch in March to online and watching just, as a plug for Breathe for Change, my goodness, what you did from putting from in-person into fully online and to what it's grown to today is absolutely phenomenal,
Mm.
and you're able to reach so many more people, and for
Mhm.
that, I'm so grateful, and I know
Me
everybody else is.
too.
Um
At the time, I literally did not believe it was possible to create the sense of community that we cultivated in person. I just
Mhm.
didn't believe it, and we
Right.
never had to even think about that because it was
Right.
pre-COVID, and I just proved myself wrong. It is so possible
Mhm.
to create a space where educators can feel so seen, so valued, so connected. They can build lifelong friendships.
They
They
found their
they
tribe. I mean,
found their
other educators that
people.
feel the same, that are going through the same thing. There's something so powerful about just knowing that you're not in it alone.
Oh, yeah,
So
and I'm obsessed. It's all I think about. It's like what keeps me up at night, what I wake up for in the morning is how do we create a deep sense of community for these educators
mhm.
and teach them all these things, sure, that are gonna enhance their well-being and enhance their pedagogy and improve their lives, but at the end of the day, when we have our people, and we don't feel alone, and when we feel like we're a part of something greater than ourselves, and we've got just that sense of connection and support,
Mhm.
that's when all of us can, like, fully tap into our full potential, and
Yep.
the fact that we've cracked the code to figure that out online, it just makes it so accessible for our teachers, and it
Well,
makes me so
before,
happy.
I mean, people would have to drive from hours away, or they couldn't do a training
Yeah,
because it was not attainable for them.
right, and we were
And
in
now
11 regions across the country, and you
yeah,
had to be in the right place at the right time with the childcare and all the things, and
right.
now you can be on your couch at home and still be making this, you know, live session, if you will, and going
With
through
their
this
kid on their lap or their cat walking by.
exactly
I mean,
in
it's
your
just
life.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the experience like, in COVID and that transformation as we went online? You started mentoring other teachers and sharing your own story with them. How did that shift you?
Um, it was a rough few years,
Mhm.
with COVID. Mentoring other teachers, I think I'd done that before the pandemic too, just at my school site. But then, coming back in and then also then being more seasoned, teachers have been retiring at my school. I ended up being like the one that was, I don't wanna say the oldest, which was true, but, the one that had been there the longest, and so it
Mhm.
just naturally I think
The
because of the
wisest,
yeah,
so
the
to speak.
wisest, thank you. But because of the mentoring that I had been doing with educators through Breathe for Change, it was just a natural thing that happened where I would just mentor, like, new teachers that were coming in, and I would teach them the things that I was learning, but it was hard when you're teaching them kind of bits and pieces,
Mhm.
rather than I wanted everyone to do the program because then they would understand
Mhm.
really how it all ties in together, but I would still share what I knew.
Mhm.
Um, and then just yeah, just mentor and then I have a principal now that I've had for the last few years who's very, very, supportive, and she, on our morning announcements, she's doing the 3 collective breaths, or she's doing the smell the flower, blow out the candle with the
Mhm.
entire school, so she's brought that
So it's
in
really
her morning meetings.
created a
A
culture
culture,
of
yeah.
wellness
Mhm.
and community at your school.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
though it's not like, Breathe for Change trained, but it's definitely something that we all, um, are a part of.
Well, that's why in the beginning, I just felt so strongly that, like, at the core of transformation is changing the world one teacher at a time.
Mhm,
Like, each and every one of us as educators, our capacity to create positive change is, I would argue, bigger than anyone else
mhm,
because we're interacting with students year after year, and that's like hundreds, if not thousands of students in a lifetime, depending on what you
right.
teach. And then if you are impacting by the way you're showing up the other educators at your school, then all of a sudden that has an impact on every student at the
It's that
school.
ripple, it's that pebble and that ripple effect.
And it's the gift that keeps on giving. That
Mhm,
ripple effect never stops because
right.
people then take on the ways of being or the practices that are going to allow them to thrive. Then the people around them pick them up. And it's just like that keeps happening. And I remember when we were launching the master's program, we went to all of our grads. We're like, hey, we have been thinking about this for years. Y'all are doing unbelievable work in your classrooms, your schools, your communities, and you deserve the recognition that, you know, you deserve recognition for this incredible work that you're doing. And we want you to be able to be known and seen and acknowledged for the impact.
Mhm.
So we're moving into higher education. We're creating this master's program. And who wants to be in it? And you're like, "Me."
Well, because I'd never, had a master's,
Mhm,
because this was a second career, and it was enough just to go back to school at I think I was 32 or 33 and get my teaching credential and then have to think about a master's, and when I looked at our pay scale, it was only $1,000 more per year if you
mhm.
had a master's, and I thought, "Why am I gonna spend $10,000 or whatever it was on a
I
master's
need to
for
go talk
$1,000 a year?"
to your district because the average is
It's
$5,000.
2,000 now,
Okay, good. Did you
but
did you have anything to do with that?
no, 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 that was already in place, but it's only 2,000, but it's still it was something,
Uh-huh.
and, so what better way to get my master's than to do it with Breathe for Change, so it was perfect timing, and it was the first cohort, I love being the first cohort
Mhm.
of most of your,
Everything.
everything except for the very initial one, so
Yeah, I remember when you called me or texted me and you're like, "I mean, I'm planning to retire in a couple years, but I'm still gonna go get my master's
yeah.
degree," and
57 years old with a master's, it's,
it's
like, crazy
incredible. So what was it that made you say yes?
that it was Breathe for Change. I
Mm.
mean, it was a no-brainer to sign up and do it because I'd already done so much work
Mhm.
with you that I knew that no matter what it ended up looking like, that it was gonna be relevant to
Mhm.
my classroom, which is why when you said, I had this big idea of doing something for my, former students in 4th and 5th grade because they were part of the pandemic and, doing an after school program, you're like, no, 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 no. Why don't you focus on the kids that are right in front of you? And I
Right.
said, but that's too easy. They're in front of me. I'm doing that anyway. And
Yep.
you're like, exactly.
Mhm.
And it changed everything.
It
So I'm
changed
so glad.
everything.
I'm so
I
glad
mean,
that you did that.
so many educators come into our programs, and as educators, we're givers. We give, give, give so much of ourselves to our students, to everyone. We always wanna create something new and do more than we have the capacity for because it's our inherent nature,
Yeah.
and for the practicum part of the master's, it's like, even though I told you, I was like, "Kristy, you're there's nothing new you need to do. You're already doing the work. You're teaching in this extraordinary way. Your teaching is completely transformed with your kindergartners over the last several years. Document that, collect data on that, analyze the data." And you're like, "Oh no, but I want to like start a wellness program for 4th and 5th graders and or do some
Something for parents
something
or,
for parents,
yeah.
a new maybe start a new organization." I was like, "Uh-uh. Nope." Honing,
And the
and
and the challenge I had last year was 19 of my 25 students were second language learners
mhm,
and came in with no English,
mhm.
and that was my challenge, and I didn't realize how I don't say how simple it was, but how simple it was to turn that into my research.
Do you remember your research question?
I sure do. It was how does a daily morning circle impact language acquisition and academic progress for my English language learners, something to that effect.
In
In
kindergarten,
kindergarten, yeah.
and then it was, like, over
Over the
the
course
course
of 6
of
months, yeah.
yeah, over the
Yeah.
course of
Yeah.
6 months, and talk more about that.
Wow. I
What you
mean
did at the beginning, what baseline data you collected, what you saw.
I mean, I was already doing academic data at the
Uh-huh,
beginning of the year, November, February, and the end of the year, so I already had those data points where I was gonna collect academic data, and I just
uh-huh,
decided, "Okay, letter names, letter sounds, counting, number recognition. Just take the 4 basic
yeah,
ones." But it was the language acquisition part that was really, interesting to me because I felt like I would not be able to teach these kids English because 'cause I'm an English only teacher. We have a bilingual classroom, but it was full. That's why I had so many in my class. I didn't know how was I going to teach them English and academics at the same time to the point where they're going to actually, benefit and learn something.
learn anything at all.
Exactly. And
Mhm,
so I just started collecting data by like keeping a notebook. That was, I think, in December. So
mhm.
I
I
hadn't
remember I
been
was like, "Bring your notebook
right. I
everywhere."
had it in my pocket and
Yep,
I would just write it down, but then I had that data where I saw, kids saying, saying it all in Spanish or just holding up a card because they didn't have the language yet to, I feel happy, I like school, to I feel excited because my mom gave me ice cream. I mean,
mm,
the development of their language over the course of just such a short time was incredible, and the academic progress was what shocked me the
mm.
most because by November I think 80% of my kids had met that beginning of the year baseline, uh
Benchmark.
thank you.
Yes.
School's over, my brain's not in school
Yeah.
mode. Um, they met that benchmark, and it was shocking to me, and
Uh-huh.
so I think by the end of the year, I can't remember the exact d but I think I had, 95% of my kids, were, had improved no, 99% had improved, and, like, 95 had it improved to, like, the February benchmark, and it was just amazing because I didn't realize until I became an action researcher and had that data to actually compare and track, that they were learning language and they were learning academics, and I think it was all because of that morning circle, that safe space that I created for them that gave them the ability to let down their fear and their, um, just anything that they had holding on and actually learn
Ugh,
because they felt safe and secure and loved.
I remember
So it
throughout that year
was
when you just kept texting me, calling me, and being like, "You won't believe the
I was
data."
shocked. I was
And I was like,
shocked.
"This is the power of research. You're
Yep.
already doing the work. Like, you've been
Mhm.
doing this for years, and you happen to have more students who didn't have any English coming in. That was
Mhm.
your focus." But when we as educators learn to see ourselves as researchers, because we all are. You're looking at data all the time.
Right.
But how do you capture the magic that you're actually doing that may just seem like your normal way of being as a teacher, but having a structure to be able to move through a research cycle
Yeah.
and then see and be blown away by yourself, like see the impact and be like, I can't believe this just happened, even though you knew it. You knew that that was going on, but the focus on the research
Yeah.
helped you.
Well, and actually having something concrete to share with people,
Mhm,
like, "This works."
mhm.
It's not just, I'm I'm that teacher that walks around with the stars on my head and I'm the one
I
always
remember
breathing and all of that kinda stuff. I mean,
your
I
little
still do that.
headband.
I still wear that every day.
You're
When I
so
don't wear it, the
cute.
kids are wondering, like, Where are your stars?" You
Mm,
know? But, you know what the hardest part of the master's program was?
mm.
Literally the hardest part
What?
was writing that paper
The capstone?
because I had not been in college for 25 years,
Mhm,
and I didn't know how to write an academic paper, and that
mhm,
was literally the hardest part. Otherwise, the rest of it was so relevant and it was so, easy because it was what I was doing anyway.
mhm.
It was just learning how to document it and then write it in a way that was a master's level paper, so
Do you remember when I told you the story about how I wrote my dissertation?
yes, in what, like 3 hours or
It's like 2
something?
days.
Yeah, 2
So
days.
it was the beginning of Breathe for Change. I was so overwhelmed as a PhD student. I mean, higher education, feeling like you have to get the writing right, you have to sound smart, all the things.
Mhm,
And I never saw myself as an academic, similar to the
mhm,
limiting belief you had about yourself. And I came home one day, and it was after the first Breathe for Change training. And Michael, my co founder, had said, give me a 2-month trial period. I'm going to help you turn this into a real movement. And so we were like deep in co-creating Breathe for Change, 2015. And I had just spent that whole year collecting my dissertation research that inspired me to start Breathe for Change in the first place. And I come home one day and he goes, Ilana, you got to read this chapter in this book. It was called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And in it, the author talked about his master's degree and how he was going to drop out because, similar to you and me, did not feel or identify as an academic.
mm,
Just like, I can't do that. I don't want to do it the way, the ivory tower does it. And then he just decided to get out a piece of paper and write for 24 hours. And he just wrote, didn't look at the books, didn't do anything and just wrote as if he was writing a journal about his experience of
mhm.
gathering whatever data he gathered. And he ended up getting awarded for it. Then he got his PhD. And Michael looked me in the eyes. He goes, if we're really going to do this thing, breathe for change, you need to write your dissertation now and be done with it because we have work to do
Yeah,
in the world. And the PhD will support that because it's going to give us the legitimacy because that's what
mhm,
the research is. It gets grounded in evidence, right? Or breathe for changes. But I was like, ah. So then for 2 days, I went to the Historical Society at University of Wisconsin, and I promised myself, don't rewrite anything or reread anything.
just right.
Write about your experience that you had following these teachers into their first year of teaching and do it for 2 days and go to yoga when you get tired. So I went to yoga twice every day from 6 a.m. to almost midnight I wrote, and then I reread it after 2 days, and I'd written 150 pages single space. I
Wow.
was blown away to tears. I was like, "There's chapter 1, there's chapter 2, there's chapter 3, there's chapter 4." And then from my voice, my story, I plugged in all the other research that I had learned throughout my program.
Wow.
And that's what I want for all of you. I want you to have your authentic voice, you have your authentic experience, you're a brilliant educator. I don't need you to write for other people. I need you to write for yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what you did. And
Yeah.
I remember how you felt after. How did it feel?
It was hard because my mom had been in the hospital
Mhm.
during that time and almost died, and so I was writing that paper, like, while she was on the sofa resting, and I lived with her for a while afterwards, and it was hard,
Mhm.
but, I just remember, like, checking in with you, and I remember asking you for an extension because there's no way I was gonna finish
Yeah.
it, and I think I only needed an extra 4 days. I mean, I ended
Uh-huh.
up getting it done, but it felt so good, and I had people in my life that said, like, "Send it to me, I'll read it," and they were
Uh-huh.
just like, "Wow," and they would give me great feedback, and it was I never felt like I was doing it alone,
Yeah.
between my community group, between you and, other family and friends that just helped me through that. It was such an accomplishment to have this, and I think it was God. I think with all the photos and the data and the graphs
Yeah.
and the appendix and all that, it was 70 something pages. It was crazy.
And you just
But
didn't think that that was possible at
no,
one point,
no,
and it was.
no.
It's so
Yeah,
amazing.
it was God.
And I know that you talked a little bit about this, but we you talked about the outcomes, right? They improved their academic performance, their literacy skills, their
The language
language.
language.
But what were you actually doing, right, in those morning circles? So if I'm a teacher, I'm like, "Wait, how did she do that? What were you doing?"
I literally would sit them in a circle, they'd have their cards, and I have jobs in my classroom, so I have a leader, a caboose, a wellness champion who does the breathing ball
Oh.
during transitions, and a kindness ambassador. The kindness ambassador came around in January because I think it was, Sam that had it was one lesson where we had to just, like, write down ideas. We had to think outside of the box,
Mhm.
just write down a bunch of ideas. And I remember thinking, "I'm not gonna come up with 10 ideas, like, I don't have that many ideas, and I just started and I still had the list, just writing down, like, what else could I do? And I just writing things. At the very end, I said, "How about a new job? How about a kindness ambassador?" And I thought that was so great because my kids would come in every day after lunch tattling about, "He did this, she did this, I
Mhm.
don't wanna do this." And it was to the point where I was pulling my hair out, and I'm like, "I gotta come up with something."
Mhm.
And so the peace talks came out of that, where I would have them fill out little laminated cards like deli tickets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 people, write down the name of someone that you wanna have a peace talk with, and I taught them that nonviolent communication,
Mhm.
and how to sit down and have that conversation. "When you pushed me, I felt sad, so I need you to say sorry." And then we finish it with the 3 H's, a handshake, a high five, or a hug, and they got to learn how to do that, and they ended up doing that on their own after a period of time. So that was one thing that I did to help with, their social needs. And then the kindness ambassador was another job because they kept pointing out things that kids were doing that were negative, and I said, "I
Mhm.
want you to be the one to look for what people are doing that are kind. So
Mhm.
you are the kindness, spy. You have to watch all day long." And they wear a special badge, and
So cute.
they get to look and see, okay, and at the end of the day, they get to stand up, practice their language, and they get to say, "I wanna give a sticker to Ilana because she played with me today," or, "I wanna give a sticker to Ilana because I saw her help a TK kid when they fell outside." So they're looking for things that kids are doing that are kind rather than looking for things that they're doing that are wrong. And that's still a job that when I ask kids what they want to do, "Okay, if I pick your stick, what job do you want today?" It's either the wellness champion or the kindness ambassador.
Ugh.
It's not the leader of the caboose. They want those jobs, which was really surprising to me
Yeah.
that they gravitate towards
I mean,
those.
it's not surprising to me because at the end of the day, when we teach kids how to be extraordinary human beings, which is what you're doing, everyone thrives. They feel great about themselves. They feel more connected to other people,
Mhm.
you as the teacher, and everyone wants to be and do good. But we're so focused on, "You didn't do that, you didn't do this," and,
Mhm.
like, this deficit
Right,
approach
right.
instead of teaching these extraordinary and very important emotional skills, relational skills,
Mhm.
these life skills, so to speak, these human skills that help our students become great human beings, which isn't that the point of
It
education?
is, and it got to the point this year where the kids wanted to choose more than 2 people. So and then we had to do it twice a day, so now we do it right before lunch.
Oh,
They'll
it's
choose 2, and then at the end of the day, they'll choose 2, then they get a sticker, then they get to choose the person who's going to be the kindness ambassador the next day. So it's just they've evolved it in a way that
I
they
remember
love.
exactly when this happened in your practicum experience. We have the Lead Your Initiative part of the curriculum, and then we have Evolve Your
Mm,
Initiative, and
mhm.
that's when we invite you, based on what you started to do, to think about what do you wanna continue? What do you wanna go deeper in? What do you wanna stop all together? And what new things might you incorporate? And it was in the new things that you might
Yes.
incorporate that we took you through this like out of the box brainstorm process that gets you out of the head and into your inherent creativity where you can come up with all these extraordinary ideas. And I'm sure many of them are not necessarily practical or you might not implement them, but there's always going to be some ideas that there's like something there.
And I remember thinking at that point, I'm like, "God, this is stupid. I don't have any ideas. Like,
I
I don't know what to think of." And it was literally the last thing on the list. That was the kindness ambassador.
Mhm.
So,
And it's funny because as educators, I mean, I know I want to instill in my students, like, be creative, tap into your creativity. But when we're so like, I can't be
we don't
creative.
believe it in ourselves,
Right.
right?
And that's why it's so important for us to start with ourselves. It's like, how can we embody these ways of being that we want to cultivate in our students? So, okay, I want to know I know that your research was extraordinary. You were able to present your impact to stakeholders and to colleagues. But then this last school year, it was really
What a
hard.
shit show this was.
It was hard. It was a shit show.
It was literally a shit show.
And so here you are, you graduate
I
with
mean,
your
literally.
master's degree, you've got this research, you're like on a high.
Oh, I had my presentation, my slideshow that you had us do at the end of the master's.
Uh-huh.
I had that geared and ready to present to the school board in the fall.
And what happened?
Never happened
Okay,
because my
so
year started out so
what happened? Why was it so hard?
so class size is a big thing. And my school, I had 28 students in my class. But what was different this
You
year,
had 28 students as one kindergarten teacher.
that's our cap. That's our max.
And in your teacher education program, you were never ever taught how to support student behaviors or mental
Classroom management,
health, classroom
there
management.
might have been a lecture on classroom management. I don't even remember,
A
but
lecture.
maybe,
This is the problem with teacher
maybe.
ed.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
keep going.
That's a whole other conversation.
I can go on my
Oh
soapbox
my god.
forever.
So, what was different about this year that I've never had is I had multiple children in my class that had special needs.
Mhm,
And I think I had initially 3 diagnosed with autism,
mhm.
9 speech IEPs, which is common, but I'm finding that there's more and more kids with speech IEPs now after the pandemic, and these babies were 2020 born.
Mm,
And I realized in February or March that I think it's because they were watching people behind masks. They have
wow.
and that was something that was
Makes
really
total
shocking.
sense. I
They're
mean,
they're they're
you
babies and
learn
they're not
through
seeing.
visual.
Yes, they're
Yeah,
not seeing the
cues.
articulation and the cues. So I had 9 with speech IEPs. I have more, but there were 9 initially. And it was just I didn't know how to support them. I'm a general ed teacher. We are not given any kind of special education training.
Mhm.
I would have, 1 or 2 kids maybe that had, IEPs for various reasons, for learning disabilities or autism, but I had 3 that were diagnosed, and then I had another student that I suspected also was on the spectrum in some way. But it was just so
Mm.
hard, and I don't think I cried that much in the first 2 months of school since I had at the since the beginning of my career.
And how
And I
many
remember
years in education are you now?
I just finished 24.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
You are a
So,
hero. Yeah,
uh,
incredible. So share more about that. Like, what was your experience when you were faced with, "These are my students, and there's a lot of challenges
and
showing up?"
I've taught, 30 kids in a classroom. We had class sizes that went from the beginning of my career at 20, jumped to 30 one year, and that was really hard, and now we were at 28, but having so many kids that had special needs was just something that I was not equipped
Mhm.
to know how to support, and so, I had one student who, couldn't toilet himself
Mm.
and literally was in the bathroom, and I couldn't help him because I had 27 other students in my classroom.
Mhm.
So and I only had in our school, we have a part-time para-educator, so that person had to deal with it, and I was dealing with parents who had never, um their child had never been to school, never had been given any kind of structure, told no, even knew what a timeout was, even knew, how to navigate being around other students, and so I ended up having to fight and advocate so hard every single day of the year to anybody who would listen, from my principal, who was super supportive, to the special ed department, to the assistant superintendents, to anybody that I could get to. that this student needed to be, number 1, back in TK because he'd never been in school, and we made that happen for a part of the time, but because we suspected he needed to be assessed,
Mhm,
he needed to be back in kindergarten so that he could fail, so
mhm.
that we could test him.
Ugh,
The system is so broken.
it's
It's
so broken.
it's so hard to get anything done, and when you have people in psychs and people that are just very by the book and know we have to do this first, we have to do this first. Our kids are not cookie cutter. That might it's good to have rules, it's good to have procedures in place, but you have to look at the child. You have to look and see what does this child need right now? It does not need us to wait a full year
Mhm,
to determine that he's failed so
mhm,
that we can test him maybe in first grade. It
mhm.
needs to happen right now. And so,
So you had people coming in to test him for 30 minutes.
well, that didn't even happen until the spring
So
because
tell me
he
more
can't.
about your advocacy journey.
Oh, it was detailed emails about, how this child couldn't toilet himself on a daily basis and the accidents that he would have and how it impacted, all my other students. I mean, I ended up having to, put so much attention on the kids that needed my attention immediately, and the other kids weren't getting what they needed from me, and that was heartbreaking for me.
Mhm,
And it made me feel like, I've got a master's degree in SEL. I know what to do, and I can't do it
mhm,
because I've got this immediate emergency in front
mhm,
of me.
mhm.
And then,
And for your students that you specifically focused on in the masters, which are those who are learning English, they don't even get your full
exactly.
attention.
And I had 12 this year that came in with no English,
Mhm,
which was less than the year before, but I knew how to support them because I had my master's and I had my research, but I didn't know how to support students with special needs when I had that many in the classroom at once. And
mhm.
so that was really, really challenging, but it lit a fire in me because I had to get them to understand and I had to get them to see that we need to address this now. We can't wait. And so it took multiple emails, multiple conversations with the parents, with the administrators, with the district, and it took
Didn't you go to school board
I
meetings?
went to school board meetings in the spring focusing on class sizes
Mhm,
because I was on the negotiations team for our contract this year and class sizes were a big one. I needed class sizes to be cut. I needed them to be smaller. And the response that I was getting from district personnel was class size doesn't matter because you would still
class
have
size doesn't
oh,
matter?
listen, class sizes don't matter because you would still have that child in your class. And what difference does it make if you have 28 or 22? I said, the difference is those 6 children that I don't have to worry about if I'm failing them or not because I have less kids. They didn't see, they didn't understand. And so I had to go to the school board. And
So
so
what
I
kinds of
spoke.
things would you say? Like, give me your speech.
Oh my god. I mean, I had 3 different themes for the 3 times I addressed the school board
And by
during
the
this.
way, for those of you who are listening, Kristy would have never, ever done this of several years ago. Like, when I first met you, you're like, "I'm too nervous to share my voice, like, I don't have the confidence to, like, step into my leadership. I'm just a kindergarten teacher." I'm like, "You're not. You are the most extraordinary kindergarten teacher. You're a leader, but seeing you live into this is so powerful, and I'm so proud."
It's because of the leadership skills that I developed through the various Breathe for Change trainings that I've had, that the opportunities that you gave me to see and to really understand that my voice matters.
Mm.
And then I know that I wasn't given this class by accident, right? The universe just, like, plopped all these kids on me and
Of
said,
course,
"Here,
that's what it
you
does.
need to figure out how to advocate for them." And so when it came down to, like, we need smaller class sizes, okay, I'm gonna go and speak to the school board, and that's the hill I'm gonna die on, and I did. I had different themes, like, one theme was, my family and my standing in the community and the fact that, my husband is a paraeducator in our district, that both my kids went through the schools in our district, that I am a product of this school district, and that I'm invested, and that this is why I am such an advocate for it, to another one where I likened it to, the emergency room, you know?
Okay, so I'm a school board member. What did you say to me?
How many of you like watching medical drama shows like ER or The Pit?
I do.
Have you ever been in the emergency room or known anybody that has had to go to the emergency room?
Oh, unfortunately, I've been in the emergency room way too much
Yeah,
and too
really,
recently.
right? So consider a kindergarten classroom as being like an emergency room. I am the
Mm.
ER doctor and I have to triage. I go out in the waiting room and I see, you're having a heart attack. You've got, your blood coming out of your, a cut on your leg. You've got a migraine. You have been shot by somebody. I said, I'm going to triage and I'm going to take care of the people that need me the most. In a kindergarten classroom, that looks like the students that, you know, I mean, I can't remember what my exact speech was, but
Oh my, this is amazing. Keep going.
and I said, I am unfortunately going to have to, if you're reading or writing or you need some help with something, you have to wait because I have to take care of the child that is eloping out of the classroom or the child who can't toilet himself in the bathroom because they're the immediate needs right now. I said, and that's not fair. That's not equitable. I am not able to do my job with, rigor that I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to be responsible to teach 28 students, but I can't because I have to deal with these kids that have the most immediate need in front of me. And how fair is that? How fair is that to the student that is ready to read or that needs help, but I can't give it to them because I have to deal with this kid who's taking off and I've gotta call the office to get someone to go chase him because I can't leave. Things like that. So, I mean, I
Amen. Amen, my friend. I mean, you just spoke the truth of millions of
the
educators, and
system is so
it
broken.
is so broken.
Yeah.
And when we don't focus on the things that actually matter in teacher education, first and foremost, how we prepare our educators to
Mhm.
manage and deal with all the actual human challenges that show up in our classrooms.
Yeah.
But then also, it's like the curriculum that we're taught to teach, which is so cognitive. And that
And none of
doesn't
that
happen when
when they're not self-regulated.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
why aren't we teaching somatic intelligence, emotional intelligence, relational
Relational.
intelligence, like
Yeah.
universal intelligence on top of the critically important, subject expertise that our kids need
Every
to.
educator needs that, and I felt so fortunate to have gone through the human intelligence portion of that this year because it was so relevant to what was happening right in front of me.
Mhm.
And so what ended up happening is that voice that I found from the beginning of the year to, emailing everybody about, these children that I had to speaking in front of the board, like, when I look back at this year, it all happened for a reason. When I look back to August and look forward, I never would have pictured that I would be where I am right now at the beginning of this last school year.
It's incredible. So, share what happened. Like, a few weeks ago, you you text me and you go, "You won't believe it. Tell
I
us."
had been because of my
Advocacy.
advocacy and speaking up at
Your
board meetings and
unstoppability, I would argue.
my loud voice.
Loud and
My
proud.
loud ass voice.
I love it.
I was asked, nobody had stepped up to be the president or vice president of our teachers union, and I was approached, to take on that role, and I thought, "You're crazy." I pay my dues, but for 24 years, I have not ever really been a part of the union. I just, let everybody else do it because I was too busy. I had
Mhm.
other things to do. I was raising a family. It never interested me. Politics, all it was never
Ugh.
interested me.
Yeah.
And they came to me and said, "But because of your advocacy for your students and speaking up at board meetings and, we think you'd be really great at this." I'm like, "Well, let me think about it." And then I happened to be with some friends who said, "You would be amazing. You could do this. We'll help you. We'll do this. We'll help you do this." And then I started talking to other people and said, "Oh, I'll be your site rep or I'll do this." I'm thinking, "Could I?
Yes, you
Could I
can,
really do this?"
and you
And
will,
and I
right?
I said, "Give me a week to think about it." And that was on a Saturday. And by Monday, I'm like, "I'm in." But, I had to be elected, but nobody else was running, and
No,
so,
you got chosen,
uh,
Kristy.
people still had to
People
vote. I did
saw
get voted
you,
in,
you
but
shared your voice, you made very clear your values in education and what you stand for, and that you are first and foremost here for your students that deserve the highest quality educational experience that they're not getting because the system is broken. And in you stepping fully into your leadership and owning who you are, which is what we worked on for so many years, you literally got chosen. Like, your community of educators saw you as the one person in your district to be the president, to lead the future of your district. And they trust you. And that's so incredible. I literally was just like, "Ah!" Tears down my face. I cannot wait to be a part of this next chapter of your journey and just seeing what you do.
It's exciting because like I said, I never thought I would ever do anything like this, and the more people I talk to, the more I hear what the role actually is and what I'll be doing. There was never one moment that I doubted it or that I had any kind of feeling of regret or hesitation.
Mhm.
So that to me means that it's my next step. It's what I'm supposed to do.
And what's your approach gonna be like? Like, how do you foresee yourself facilitating meetings and interacting with all the stakeholders and just kind of how are you gonna bring everything that you've embodied over the last several years into the role?
The one thing that I've noticed that happens at a lot of meetings and with teachers because I mean we're burnt out and we need other people to vent to and to bitch to and
Mhm,
there's a lot that's wrong in our country and there's a lot that's wrong in our district in our schools with the system. But we need to start looking at what's going right
mhm. What's
because
working?
I'm gonna be the kindness ambassador for the district. But it's like
That's what
but
you
I
should
want
say. I am the president of the teachers union, but I'm changing the title of the role to
Right,
the
yeah.
kindness
We're gonna be the kindness
ambassador.
ambassador. But I wanna start each site rep meeting out with a gratitude practice.
Oh,
I need educators to sit there and stop and think, like, "Why are they doing this? What are they there for? What is our task. We are there to serve kids. We're there for the students. And yes, there's a lot of shit that goes wrong and there's a lot of people to complain about. But if we get caught up into that complaining to each other,
mhm,
it feeds on it. You know what I mean? I just
mhm,
can't I don't want to allow it to get to that point. I want to
mhm.
turn it and have it be a little bit more positive, not to be like all like, blowing sunshine and rainbows out of your ass.
No,
I'm not
it's
up to that. I want people to start thinking about why are you doing this? If
mhm,
you're that unhappy, if this is not what you want to do, then you should definitely do something else. But let's pick apart and see why are we here?
mhm,
We're here for the kids, and let's find the
mhm,
good things. Let's find those there's a word for it, like those sparks, those moments that keep us going.
mhm.
And our district is so kind of disjointed right now. I mean, middle school teachers and elementary school teachers, and from this school site to that school site, and the inequity in our district is kind of crazy with,
Mhm.
the west side where all the money and the affluence
Resources.
and the resources and the educated parents, the two-parent homes to the east side where I teach, where there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of immigration fear, there's, economic hardship. So it's very different. And while they say that like everyone is equal, we're not equal and
Mm-mm.
it's not. And so I want to kind of bring everybody back together. I want to bring the schools back together. I'm going to do a monthly yoga class in our gym just to kind of invite teachers in since I have that certification. I can do that. But I want to bring everybody back together.
Mhm.
And so I'm still thinking about how I'm going to do that. But bringing us back together and kind of getting us to realize we're all on the same page. We're all on the same
Right,
path. We're all here for the same reason.
right,
Let's let's get together and do that. And we have a
right.
new superintendent coming in, and so I'm thinking that's a really great opportunity from someone who's not, union savvy. I'm more, human savvy.
Ye
You know,
Yes,
to
you are.
to
I
to
love
bring
that.
that in with the new superintendent and let him know like this is what we need.
Mhm.
We need to get more breathe for change educated teachers at every school site.
And we will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about is aligning all the leaders in your district and all the educators in a shared purpose. And when we can all recognize that we are here for the same greater purpose
Mhm.
in this life, which is our kids and their abilities to thrive in the future, then we can do the work. And gratitude is a practice that forces us to focus on what is working versus what's not. And let's be honest, if we all had the opportunity in any given moment, there's a lot that's not working.
Mhm.
So it's easy to go there.
Right. And I
The
don't wanna
itty bitty
focus on
shitty
that.
committee comes in, just hijacks us and takes us to the
And we
negativity.
need to address that. But I don't wanna
Absolutely.
focus on that. I wanna come back to what are you grateful for in this moment? Who are you grateful for? What are you grateful for that happened to you in your classroom today? I just want them to come back to to that first, and then we can talk about all the stuff that's
Mhm,
going wrong, but
mhm.
let's
Take
not
a
start there.
take a strengths-based
Yeah,
perspective
yeah,
and recognize what is happening, and then focus on where's there more opportunity
mhm, and I'm
versus,
gonna
like,
bring
what's
our
the problem that we have to address and creating more distance.
right, and I wanna bring it back to in person because the meetings have all gone virtual, and I wanna bring them back getting teachers back in a room together,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, I am so excited to just be on this wild ride with you. You are so deserving of this role as president. I am just really excited for your district to have a leader that, like, you don't even have background in politics or any of
Or a
this,
union,
which
yeah,
I think is what's going to allow for actual transformation to happen
that's what I
because
feel
we get
too.
so stuck in the polarization of everything. And for you to come in with this perspective of how do I bring people together
Mhm,
and for us to move forward and really focus on the human side of teaching and learning and recognize that that's where the magic is going to happen in
mhm.
education. Just your district is in such good hands, and so I'm so proud, and we're gonna bring you back on to hear what that actual experience is like when you're
Okay.
sitting in that seat and doing the actual work to
I'm sure
get.
it won't be easy.
Oh,
I'm
it's not
sure
gonna
there's
be
going to
easy,
be moments where I'm like, "Why am I doing
and
this?"
then you'll reconnect to your
Mhm.
purpose just
Yeah,
like you're having everyone else do.
yeah.
Well, I love you.
I
This was
love you
so
too. Thank you. It's all
fun.
because of you that I'm able to even be in this point in my life right now
Mm.
because like I said, 6 no, 8 years?
8 years.
Kindergarten math. 2018
2000
was 8 years ago?
2018. Yeah.
8 years ago. Yeah, I never would have thought that I would be here. Again, so close to retirement. I mean, who knows? Now, after the masters, I'm ready to put in another 5 years instead of 2. I'm not ready to hang up my hat yet.
Well, and that's the goal, that educating kids and communities become sustainable for every educator everywhere. That's really why we're
Now
here.
now I could reach adults
Yeah.
and not just my kids and
And
hopefully make a little bit of an impact before I do decide to hang it up.
I would argue a lot of bit of an impact. So I love you, and this has been so fun.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. See you soon.
Okay.